You shut the door on the possibility before you ever gave yourself the chance to step through it. And the truth is, I can't doesn't come from your soul. It doesn't come from that deeper part of you that knows you're meant for more. It comes from fear. Fear of failing, fear of being judged, fear of looking stupid, fear of starting from the bottom, fear of having to grow through discomfort, fear of not being enough. Every time you're about to step into something new, that fear shows up dressed like logic, whispering, I can't do this, when what it really means is I'm scared to try. But fear doesn't talk about fear. Fear talks about limitations. Fear hides behind fake rationality. Fear will never tell you the whole truth. It will tell you what's safe, not what's possible. And possibility, everything you want in life, requires you to walk right through the things fear tells you you can't handle. Think about your childhood. Think about all the times you learned something completely new. Walking, talking, reading, riding a bike. You didn't know how to do any of those things. You weren't skilled. You weren't trained. You weren't experienced. But you didn't say, I can. You tried. You fell. You got back up. You failed again. You kept going. That's how humans grow. Not by being perfect, but by being willing to try before they're ready. Somewhere along the way, life beat that fearlessness out of you. Somewhere life made you think that failure was embarrassing, that mistakes were shameful, that imperfection meant you weren't good enough. And the moment that mindset set in, I can't, it became easier to say than to let me see what I'm capable of. But here's the truth you have to face. Your fear is lying to you. You are not incapable. You are not weak. You are not limited. You are simply unfamiliar. Donk. And unfamiliarity is not a weakness. It's an opportunity. The greatest people in the world weren't born knowing how to do things. They learn because they refuse to accept I can't. They replace that sentence with they shall figure it out. And that difference in language is the difference between a life of excuses and a life of elevation. When you say, I'll figure it out, your mind activates. Creativity turns on. You start looking for options, ideas, solutions, opportunities. You give yourself permission to grow. You give yourself permission to become someone new. But when you say, I can, you cut the power switch. You shut down every mechanism inside of you that's designed to evolve. I can't is not just a phrase, it's a ceiling, a cage, a chain around your potential. Every success story you admire was built on people who were terrified but acted anyway. They started without knowing how. They started without the right resources. They started without confidence. No, they started with fear in their chest and uncertainty in their mind. But they didn't let those two words define them. You're not failing because you're incapable. You're failing because you keep surrendering to the voice that tells you you're incapable. Your potential is enormous, but it's being smothered under the weight of your own self-doubt. And as long as I can't stays a part of your vocabulary, you will never even get the chance to see how powerful you really are. Every time you choose to say, I can, even when you're not sure, you create a crack in the wall that's been trapping you. And with every action you take, that crack widens until eventually the entire wall collapses. But it starts with the decision to challenge the lie. It starts with you hearing that voice that says, I can't. And instead of believing it, you question it. You push back. You ask yourself, I can't, or won't, can't, or afraid can't, or don't want to face the discomfort of growth. 90% of the time, the truth isn't that you can't. It's that you don't want to feel the temporary pain that comes with leveling up. The pain of discipline, the pain of learning, the pain of starting small, the pain of being a beginner again. But pain is temporary, regret is permanent. And every time you allow a cancer to win, you're choosing regret over growth. The next chapter of your life demands a new version of you, a version that doesn't run from challenge, a version that doesn't bow to fear, a version that refuses to use weak language. Every dream you have is waiting on the other side of I can. Not I'm ready. Not I'm perfect, not I know how, but I can. Because I can is the phrase that unlocks effort, unlocks courage, unlocks movement. You don't have to know everything, you just have to be willing to try. You don't have to be great, you just have to start. You don't have to be confident, you just have to show up. The universe rewards action, not excuses. And I can't is the king of excuses. You owe it to yourself to stop living in the shadow of lies your fear created. You owe it to yourself to interrupt that voice every single time it appears. You owe it to yourself to replace I can't with something stronger, something truer, something that reflects who you really are. Someone capable, someone powerful, someone who may not know how yet, but is ready to learn. The moment you silence I can't, you give birth to the real you. The version of you that's been waiting to rise. The version of you that's been buried under fear for years. The version of you that can and will transform everything in your life once you stop believing the limitations you've outgrown. Fear is the greatest manipulator you will ever face, and it's the one enemy that never fights you honestly. It never comes at you openly. It never tells you, I am fear, and I want to stop you from growing. No! Fear disguises itself. Fear dresses itself up as logic, as caution, as practicality, as common sense. You'll feel the pull in your chest, the hesitation in your mind, the pressure in your stomach, but your brain will label it as something else. This isn't the right time. I'm not ready yet. But what if it goes wrong? It let me wait until I feel more confident. Fear never introduces itself as fear. It always shows up pretending to protect you, when really all it wants is to paralyze you. It wants to keep you exactly where you are, living small, avoiding challenge, avoiding growth, avoiding the unknown. Fear wants you comfortable, and comfort is the graveyard where potential goes to die. Fear lies by making you believe the worst case scenario is the most likely scenario. It exaggerates everything that could go wrong. It builds imaginary disasters in your mind. You'll think about starting something new and instantly fear paints the picture. You'll fail. People will laugh. You'll lose everything. You'll embarrass yourself. You'll get rejected. You'll look stupid. Fear takes one tiny possibility and magnifies it into a certainty. And because your mind is wired for survival, you believe the lie. You react to the thought as if it's truth. You pull back. You hesitate. You abandon the action before it ever had a chance to exist. That's how fear traps you. Not by force, but by illusion. But here's the part that hurts the most. Fear never paints the opposite picture. It never shows you what could go right. It never shows you the best case scenario. It never lets you imagine the rewards, the growth, the opportunities, the transformation waiting on the other side of your courage. Fear only speaks in one direction, the direction that keeps you stuck. And if you never question it, if you never challenge it, you spend your entire life living inside a cage built by your imagination. A cage made of nothing but thoughts. The bars aren't real, but your belief in them is. Fear lies to you about your abilities too. Instead of saying, oh, this is new, this is uncomfortable, but you can learn. Fear says, oh, I'm not good enough for this. Instead of saying, oh, you've never done this before, but you're capable. Fear says you will fail because you're inexperienced. Instead of saying, you need time to grow, fear says, if you can't do it perfectly right away, you shouldn't do it at all. Fear uses your insecurities like weapons against you. It uses your past failures as proof that you'll fail again. It reminds you of every mistake, every embarrassment, every moment of weakness, and convinces you that those moments define you. And once fear locks onto your identity, it becomes incredibly hard to break free, because now you're not just questioning your actions, you're questioning yourself. Fear also lies by making you think that being afraid means stop. But the truth is, fear is often a signal that you're exactly where you need to be. Fear shows up when you're on the edge of growth. It appears when you're stepping into unknown territory, when you're about to outgrow old versions of yourself, when you're about to unlock a higher level of your life. Fear doesn't visit people who stay stuck. Fear visits people who are moving. But fear doesn't tell you that. Fear doesn't say you're evolving and that's why I'm here. Instead, it tells you you're in danger. Turn back. And most people listen, not because they are weak, but because fear feels real. Fear feels loud. Fear feels logical. And because so many people have surrendered to fear for so long, they've lost the ability to distinguish between danger and discomfort. The real danger is staying the same. The real danger is letting fear win. The real danger to having a life controlled by a voice inside your head that doesn't want what's best for you. Fear's job is survival. It doesn't care about fulfillment, purpose, legacy, or greatness. It only cares about safety. And safety is not where your best self is built. Safety is not where dreams come true. Safety is not where confidence grows. Safety is not where destiny is fulfilled. Everything you want in life exists outside the boundary that fear told you not to cross. Fear lies by making the temporary discomfort of trying seem worse than the permanent pain of regret. It convinces you that a few moments of uncertainty are too much to handle, but it never tells you that years of a what if will eat you alive. Fear magnifies today's discomfort and hides tomorrow's consequences. You think you're choosing safety, but really you're choosing a lifetime of unrealized potential. And the moment you start recognizing that truth, the moment you realize fear's lies cost you more than they protect you, that's the moment your entire life begins to shift. Fear's final lie, its biggest, most paralyzing one, is that you are alone. Fear isolates you. It makes you believe you're the only one struggling, the only one doubting yourself, the only one feeling unprepared, the only one battling insecurity. But everyone who has ever achieved anything meaningful has had to fight fear. Everyone. The difference is not that they were fearless. The difference is that they stopped listening. They acted anyway. They felt the nerves, the anxiety, the uncertainty, but they moved. They stepped. They tried. They walked straight through the lies until the lies lost their power. And that's your job now, not to eliminate fear, because fear is part of being human, but to stop letting it speak for you, to stop letting it make decisions for you, to stop letting it define your limits. Your fear does not know your capability. Your fear does not know your future. Your fear does not know your strength. Your fear does not know what you can become. Fear only knows your past. And even that, it twists into something darker than it really was. So you must separate your identity from your fear. You must separate truth from emotion. You must hear fear's voice and tell yourself, but just because it feels real doesn't mean it is. When you begin challenging fear like that, something powerful happens. Its lies get quieter. Your courage gets louder. Your belief gets stronger. And step by step, you start reclaiming the parts of your life fear once controlled. That's when you wake up one day realizing something simple but life-changing. Fear is only as strong as your willingness to believe it. Once you stop believing the lies, you stop believing the lie, you stop living a limited life. And you step into the life you were always meant to live. The third keynote is about replacing I can't say with action, even when the action feels small, uncomfortable, or insignificant. Because the real problem has never been your ability, it has always been your hesitation. Every time you say I can't, you're not describing your limits, you're describing your willingness. And willingness is a choice, not a destiny. The truth is, you've survived too much. You've endured too much. You walked through situations most people would collapse under. And yet you convince yourself that you are can't to take the next step, that you are can't to try, that you are can't to reach the next level. No, what's actually happening is that your mind has rehearsed hesitation more than it has rehearsed courage. You've trained yourself to stay still. You've trained yourself to expect failure. You've trained yourself to retreat before the fight even starts. And now you believe the training more than you believe your own potential. But today, this moment, this breath, this is where that training ends. When you replace excuses with action, your whole life shifts. Action kills fear. Action kills doubt. Action kills the story in your head that says you're not enough. The moment you move even a little, you prove to yourself that the limitation was imaginary. You ever notice that? You push yourself to do something you thought you couldn't, and suddenly you're like, oh wait, that wasn't even as hard as I made it out to be. The problem wasn't the task. It was the narrative you built around it. You kept feeding your mind reasons to stay where you are, reasons to avoid trying, reasons to avoid risking, reasons to avoid failing. But the truth is, when you act, even imperfectly, you steal power away from the excuses that used to control you. Your mind can't argue with results, even tiny ones. And once your mind sees you move, it starts believing you're capable of more. The reason action feels so difficult at first is because your brain is addicted to comfort. It's addicted to familiar routines, even if those routines are destroying your potential. You've been negotiating with your mind. Your mind says, let's wait. You say, okay. Your mind says, well, what if we fail? You say, you're right. Your mind says, let's avoid it. You say, maybe tomorrow. And suddenly years pass. Dreams die. Opportunities disappear. And you call that fate, but it wasn't fate. It was hesitation disguised as protection. You're not weak. You're not incapable. You're not broken. You're simply stuck in a loop. Your mind built to keep you safe, but the world you want requires you to be brave. You can't stay comfortable and become powerful. You can't stay scared and become great. You can't stay hesitant and become who you're meant to be. The only way to break that loop is through action, consistent action, even when it's uncomfortable. You have to teach your mind a new pattern, a new instinct. Instead of shrinking, you push. Instead of doubting, you try. Instead of saying, I can't, you say, I'll start. You don't need to know the whole path. You just need to take the next step. Because the next step builds momentum, and momentum builds belief. And belief is what transforms your entire identity. You ever wonder why some people succeed even though they're not the smartest or strongest? It's because they take action before they feel ready. They take action before they feel confident. They take action before they feel motivated. They don't wait. They move. They don't negotiate. They execute. And eventually their actions reshape their life. When you replace I can with immediate action, you begin teaching your mind that you're stronger than your doubt. Imagine waking up tomorrow and instead of overthinking, you act. Instead of planning for hours, you take the first step. Instead of hesitating, you move. Imagine how much further you'd be in 30 days. Imagine how much stronger you'd feel. Imagine how much your identity would shift. You would stop seeing yourself as someone who quits and start seeing yourself as someone who wins. Because winners aren't people who never feel fear. They're people who move in spite of it. They don't wait for motivation. They create it. They don't wait for perfect timing. They built the timing. They don't ask, can I? They declare, watch me. Every time you act, you rewrite your story. You are reprogramming years of self-doubt, years of hesitation, years of fear. You are proving to yourself that the old version of you, the one that ran from challenges, the one that folded under pressure, the one that came up with excuses, doesn't control you anymore. Action turns you into a new person, a stronger person, a person who doesn't break when life tests them. Because life will test you. Life will hit you. Life will push you to the edge. But if you've trained yourself to act instead of retreating, you become unstoppable. You become dangerous not to the world, but to your own limitations. You become someone who doesn't wait for permission. You take responsibility. You take control. You take charge. Action is the cure for I can't. It's the cure for I can't. Action is the weapon that destroys doubt. Action is the bridge between who you are and who you're trying to become. Stop overthinking. Stop hesitating. Stop rehearsing failure mind. Move. Execute. Start. Don't wait for perfect answers. Don't wait for confidence. Don't wait for confidence. Don't wait for someone to save you. The moment you replace excuses with action, the moment you choose progress over perfection, your whole identity begins to shift. You become the kind of person who doesn't say, I can't. You become the kind of person who says, I will. And at the end of all of this, I want you to understand something deeper than motivation. Deeper than energy, deeper than any speech you will ever hear. Your life will never change by accident. It will only change when you decide you're done letting the old version of you run the show. The version that hesitates, the version that doubts, the version that whispers, I can't, before you even try. That version has taken enough from you. It has stolen opportunities, stolen years, stolen confidence, stolen dreams. And you are standing right now in the one moment where you can finally take all of it back. By deciding that from this day forward, your story will be written by the version of you that pushes, not the version that pauses. This is your chance to rise. This is your chance to become the kind of person who doesn't run from challenges, but runs straight into them. The kind of person who doesn't wait for perfect conditions, but creates them. The kind of person who doesn't fold under pressure, but becomes sharper because of it. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need anyone to clap for you. You don't need anyone to understand your journey. You just need to make a decision, a loud decision inside your soul that you will no longer be the one holding yourself back. You are done speaking limitations over your own life. You are done giving power to fear. You are done letting comfort dictate your future. You owe it to yourself to see what happens when you stop doubting and start doing. You owe it to yourself to see how far you can go when you stop saying I can and start saying I must. Every great thing you want. Discipline, success, confidence, peace, purpose. It all comes from one moment of choosing action over excuses. One moment. And that moment is right now. Not tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when life feels easier. Right now in the middle of the chaos. In the middle of the fear. In the middle of the uncertainty. right now when the old you is trying hard to pull you back into the same patterns that have kept you stuck. But you're not stuck anymore. Not after this. Not after everything you've heard. Not after everything you've survived. You are stepping into a different identity. One built on strength, on clarity, on courage, on discipline. You are becoming the kind of person who doesn't stop until the mission is complete. The kind of person who wakes up with intention, who moves with purpose, who acts without waiting for confidence to show up. If you take anything with you from this moment, let it be this. You are capable of far more than your mind has allowed you to believe. You are stronger than your excuses, bigger than your fears, and greater than the limits you've accepted until now. Your life is waiting for you to show up. So show up, move, act, push, because the world is about to meet the version of you that no longer says, I can't, but walks boldly into the future saying, ooh, watch me.